Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here. Blu-rays, folks. And I wanted to do a few more discoveries. Definitely recommend going and checking out the episode I did with Patrick Bromley of F This Movie, where we both did 5 each of our favorite movies that we saw for the first time on a Blu-ray in 2023. So I have several more here. I'm going to run through these pretty quick. And I'll start with the newest ones, although now I'm confused if some of these I might not remember when they came out. But I do remember the first 3 are definitely from this year. So these could have easily been part of my favorite Blu-rays video. But I decided to include them here just because I was more about the discovery too. But I'll start with Radiance again, a label that's really made a big impression on me, with Big Time Gambling Boss from 1968, I believe. And this is a film by Kasaku Yamashita, and it really, really got me. It's a Yakuza movie. It said, as machinations take place to install a new Yakuza clan leader, loyalties are severely tested when the rightful leader is released from prison, resulting in increasingly violent internal strife. An atmospheric tale of gangland intrigue from the writer of Battles Without Honor and Humanity, starring Tomisaburo Wakayama, Lone Wolf and Cub. Big Time Gambling Boss is one of the all-time classics of the Yakuza genre. Paul Schrader called it the richest and most complex film of its type, while most likely Yuko Mishima hailed it as while novelist Yuko Mishima hailed it as a masterpiece. Yeah, it's really something. It was one of the first, maybe the first release from Radiance, I think this year. Regardless, it is great, and there's a great tension about this whole story when you have a new boss being selected after the old boss has had a stroke or something, and they end up appointing like the boss's son-in-law instead of the guy who should be next in line because he's in jail, and that's the guy from Lone Wolf and Cub. When he gets out, his buddy, who was also offered the position but was not originally of this clan, turned it down. And so the guy who should have got it was like, why didn't you take it? And he's like, well, I'm not full-blooded from this clan, so I didn't. And as much as he wants to, the Lone Wolf and Cub actor can't let it go. And they start to think there's people, there's a conspiracy going on, and maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but it's a great tension. It explodes in violence a few times, and it's really, really good. Like, I was so impressed. Definitely one of my favorite discoveries of the year from Radiance. New visual essay, booklet. Yeah, really, really nice release, and one that really got, Radiance on my radar. Next up, we have the Fatal Femes set from Fun City Editions. This includes Nej and the Bitch, or Nej and La Garce, I think is is the way that it's the French title. And this one, these are both good movies, but I was really particularly impressed with Nej, Snow, and I'll just read from the back here. In Nej, Berto, Celine and Julie go boating, and La Chinoise is a barmaid in the red light district Pigalle, and when a young drug dealer who she helped raise is gunned down by an undercover cop, she attempts to score heroin for his now desperate clientele. She's aided in her quest by her French-Hungarian kickboxer boyfriend and West Indian preacher. A dynamic portrait of a diverse Parisian community. Nej's observations about this unique place are simultaneously inspiring and heartbreaking. This film's stunning imagery is a credit to famed cinematographer William Lubchansky, a collaborator with Rivette, Godard, Lanzmann, Truffaut, and Varda. Now restored in 4K from its original 35 camera negative, Nej is a vital window into the milieu that's rarely seen and captured on film before. It's really great. It's like a noir. I mean, that's what Fun City was trying to do with this set. It is filmed with sort of noir trappings, and it works really well. But Nej in particular, just showing this community and this group of outcast characters and how they come together. I was really impressed with it. It really stood out as a gem for me, and a movie that I definitely recommend people check out. Fun City always does a great job with their releases. There's some nice extras on this double set, and 2 movies that I'd never heard of, let alone seen before. So definitely recommended Fun City's Fatal Femes set. Then we have from Imprint Films, Uptight. And this is from Jules Dassin. And it's in the days after the assassination of Martin Luther King, an unemployed and itinerant steelworker turns over his militant friend to the police for a $1,000 reward, resulting in an underground all-points bulletin to exact vengeance on the squealer. So it's kind of a blaxploitation version of The Informer. There was a couple different versions, but John Ford made a version of The Informer where you're given sort of a sympathetic look at a character who is desperate and put in a position to test his loyalties and fail that test. And it's a really, really great movie that I had never seen before, and I was really impressed with. Raymond St. Jacques, Ruby Dee, Frank Silvera, Roscoe Lee Brown, Julian Mayfield is the guy behind the betrayal, and he's great. It's a 1080p presentation of a 2019 4K scan of the original camera negative by Paramount, audio commentary by film historians Alan Silver and Jim Orsini, film critic writer Christina Newland on Uptight, which is a great featurette, and Elective Vicissitudes, The Radical Exiles of Jules Dassin, a video essay by film historian Daniel Creamer. You get a sense of this movie and how difficult it was to make, and how incendiary it was, and just how powerful. But really a great, great film, and one that I wasn't fully aware of until this Blu-ray. So that's Uptight, and that came out in 1968. Then we have Good Times. No, not the version of the film you're thinking of, but rather Sonny and Cher's Good Times. This is William Friedkin's early film, one of his first, maybe his first narrative film. I can't remember if he'd done multiple documentaries or features before this, but he got this chance to do this Sonny and Cher movie, which is kind of like, Taking Off on a Hard Day's Night, where it's got multiple, it's about making a movie with Sonny and Cher, where George Sanders plays an evil studio executive who wants to make a movie with them. Brand new 4K scan of the original camera negative. And their one and only on-screen pairing, singing duo television stars Sonny and Cher, star in this happy, affectionate, and lovable film about who else? Sonny and Cher, an impressive feature directorial debut by William Friedkin. Good Times is a good, great, and downright groovy. Husband and wife singers Sonny and Cher couldn't be hotter. They even have an offer to star in a movie. Trouble is, Cher doesn't want to do it, and the script stinks. Now Sonny has 10 days to write a new script. He has great ideas. He could be a cowboy, the king of the jungle, or a private eye, but he still has to convince his dynamite babe to sing the same tune. So they're doing these little sketches that are taking off on private eye films or Tarzan films or Westerns, and they're very silly. I said it's kind of like Bedazzled in a way. It's very Faustian because you have this character of George Sanders who keeps showing up and puncturing these fantasies that Sonny's having when he's trying to write these new scenes. So those are fun, but then he's also, William Friedkin and Sonny and Cher are also doing music video stuff, kind of, on the streets, stealing shots, like Hard Day's Night, but, a little different and sort of still pretty on the cutting edge, ahead of its time for 1967, but very enjoyable, and includes a new interview with Friedkin and an audio commentary by Lee Gambin. The Friedkin interview is like 20 minutes, and it really gives a nice backstory on the film. I enjoyed doing that. It was one of my discoveries for the Friedkin episodes we did for Pure Cinema. Next up, another Kino release, If I Had a Million. This is an anthology comedy, which I really wish there were more of. Honestly, I love anthology comedies. To prevent his inheritance from going to his greedy family, a dying steel tycoon, Richard Bennett, chooses 8 random strangers and gives them each $1 million. He basically takes a dropper and drops a droplet onto the phone book, and that's how he picks who he's going to give his money to. And among these chosen are an entertainer, W.C. Fields, who uses the money to clear bad drivers from the road. That's a great set where W.C. Fields and his wife get a new car and they get in an accident, and then he calls them road hogs, and basically they buy a bunch of junky cars and they hire a bunch of people to go out and crash into other cars. That's a lot of fun. A Marine, Gary Cooper, who believes the check is an April Fool's Day prank. An office clerk, Charles Lawton, who finally sees an opportunity to quit his job. That's a great one. Very great one joke. The unexpected windfalls bring joy or tragedy to the recipients. The anthology film If I Had a Million rounds up a veritable who's who of Hollywood filmmaking luminaries, including Ernst Lubitsch, Joseph L. Mankiewicz, James Cruz, H. Bruce Humberstone, Stephen Roberts, Norman Z. MacLeod, William A. Seitzer, and Norman Torog. The Lubitsch ones are pretty good. There's one with Charlie Ruggles as a guy who works in a China store that sells glassware, and he keeps breaking the stuff because he's kind of a nervous guy. And every time he breaks it, they take it out of his check, and he comes home and his wife sees his check. She's like, "What did you do?" And it's fun to see what he does when he wins. But yeah, it turns them loose for a zany, star-studded pre-code classic that bristles with imagination and wit. And this has a commentary by Alan Arkush and Daniel Kramer. But really enjoyable. Had never been on Blu-ray before, and I'd never seen it before. I think I taped it off TCM, but I didn't remember it. And great cast. Love these little stories. W.C. Fields and Charles Lawton and all this. Good stuff. Now this one... No, I guess this isn't from this year. Okay, so... couple TV movies, but I like one more than the other. Fear No Evil and Ritual of Evil. These are both starring Louis Jourdan. This double feature special edition includes a new 2K restoration of Fear No Evil 1969 and its sequel, Ritual of Evil 1970, both starring Louis Jourdan. Fear No Evil, Dr. David Sorrell Jourdan, a psychiatrist specializing in the occult, becomes involved in the case of a man possessed by a spirit. Sorry, it's a woman actually, possessed by the spirit in an antique mirror. I'm sorry. He is possessed by it, and then she's possessed by it. The man's fiancée discovers the mirror, is able to bring back her former boyfriend who had been killed in a car accident from the dead. This is a great cast. It's co-starring Linda Day George, Carol O'Connor as a physicist, which is great. Bradford Dillman, Wilfred Hyde White, who's a recurring character, Marsha Hunt, and directed by Paul Wenkos. It's cool because it's like Linda Day George, her husband is who did I say here? Bradford Dillman, and he's having this problem, and he dies, and he gets this mirror, and then she keeps the mirror, and she can see him in the mirror, or a version of him, and they start like making out, and it's this intense like reality that she can feel, and she becomes addicted to it, but it's like a haunted mirror. It's weird, but I really kind of dug it. And the second one I won't go into because I didn't like it as much, but Fear No Evil, definitely worth a look, I think. Really kind of a neat, for fans of like Devil Rides Out, kind of stuff. And this is a big one, but one for whatever reason I hadn't seen, and that's True Stories, the David Byrne film. And it's a great cult film. I totally get why people love it now, and for whatever reason I think the DVD was always like full frame, and I was like, I just really want to see it in a widescreen version, and it was only like this crappy like snapper case. It had been around for a long time, and I was just kind of holding out, and now this Blu-ray came out, and it's really great, and it's new 4K digital transfer, and new documentary about the film's production, and it's really special. It's shot by Ed Lachman, who would work with Todd Haynes, among many others. It features a song, and the movie itself inspired Radiohead. The song Radiohead is in this, and that inspired the name of the band. And it's just a very goofy portrait of Texas, I guess. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's very interesting, very cult, and I totally get it now. And I know a lot of people have already seen this, so I'm not going to go deep on it, but definitely a discovery for me this year and one that I very much enjoyed. From Indicator, a movie called State of the Union. I talked about this earlier this year, but a Frank Capra movie starring Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, Van Johnson, Angela Lansbury, Adolphe Menjou, and Louis Stone. And it's like about a guy that's going to be running for president. And actually, let me just read a little bit of the essay. State of the Union was director Frank Capra's last important film, marking the end of his reign as America's preeminent storyteller. While he would go on to make several more films and find work in other media, the era of Capra-esque movie, one that could enchant audiences with solid storytelling and a heavy dose of virtue, had officially come to a close. These types of films had fallen out of favor with the movie going public. The post-war economic boom, the threat of communism, and the beginning of the Cold War greatly altered the sensibilities. Okay. Over the years, State of the Union has become less associated with Capra's canon and better known as the fifth installment of the 9-movie franchise featuring powerhouse duo of Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. However, upon closer inspection, the film represents much of what made Capra such a beloved filmmaker and is remarkable for being both timely and timeless. State of the Union can be viewed as Capra's love letter to his concept of America, a celebration of capitalism, democracy, upward mobility, and ruthlessness. The film's origin story begins with a chance encounter between writers. Okay, I don't want to go into the heavy weeds of like what it's about, but I mean what the behind the scenes is. But just to give like a brief summation of the sort of what the movie's about. Spencer Tracy is at the center of it, and the like very, very short pitch is that he's an industrialist that's urged to run for president, but this requires uncomfortable compromises on both political and marital levels. So he's being encouraged to run for president by some folks that could help him get elected, including Angela Lansbury, and she's helped by Van Johnson, and Adolphe Menjou is the big one that's pushing for this. But he's married to Katharine Hepburn. Their marriage is a little estranged, and it's not going to help them because it seems like maybe there's something going on between Angela Lansbury and Spencer Tracy. It's based on a play, but it feels bigger than that. I don't know. I can't explain it, but it does have that Capra-esque feeling and that Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn feeling. And it's one of those movies that I just don't feel like, you hear about a lot of the other ones that they made, but not this one. And so I was really excited to check this one out, and I dug it. I really thought it was an interesting entry for him and a discovery for me. And lastly, I dug into my old Twilight Time Blu-ray collection and pulled out Gun Fury 3D. I will say I love that that Twilight Time would do the occasional 3D release, and they would do a wonderful job with the 3D. So I did watch this on my 3D TV in 3D. I think it's the only film that Raoul Walsh ever made in 3D. Classic film director Raoul Walsh, High Sierra, gives us his only 3D movie, the revenge western Gun Fury 3D. Rock Hudson stars as a young man left for dead after a stagecoach robbery. In fact, very much alive, he sets out after the men who tried to kill him, including the likes of Philip Carey, Neville Brand, and a young Lee Marvin, who also happened to have kidnapped his sweetheart, played by Donna Reed. So it's a great revenge story in 3D. How many Westerns have you seen in 3D, by the way? And there's something about the landscape of Westerns in 3D that's great, but this cast and this particular kind of revenge story in 3D just made it that much more interesting to me. I don't know why. Maybe if you saw it in 2D, it might not quite have the same impact that this did ultimately, but I really enjoyed this one. It was neat to see Rock Hudson, who did a lot more Westerns than I think people remember. He was a really big Western star for a long time. They put him in a lot of Westerns, and this is just one I just feel like a lot of people haven't heard of. So I have to recommend that you track this one down. I think it's out of print at this point, but there were really some nice 3D Blu-rays that Twilight Time put out that I'm so glad that they took the time. Inferno is another one. I know Elric My friend Elric Kane is a big fan of Inferno, which is kind of a noir, 3D noir with Robert Ryan, but it's in color. That was one of the 3D Blu-rays that they put out at one time. And so I think that was what got me thinking about, what other 3D stuff do I have from them? And anyway, Raoul Walsh, a great filmmaker, and this turns out to be a very enjoyable 3D Western in Gun Fury. So anyway, that will do it for my more discoveries on Blu-ray. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.